Everyone, my name is Liz. I am the owner of Hamster Publishing, and I am here with the lovely people at Penance RPG, previewing my game, Witch Fated Souls 2nd Edition, for everybody. And we are going to take a spooky adventure in a small, sleepy town outside of London, with a coven of witches who have been sent by the Keeper of London, and we'll get into all of that, to the small town of West Hutton in the English countryside to investigate a series of people coming down with a strange illness. But before we get into all of that, I'd love it if everyone could introduce themselves and who they are playing. Blanca, let's start with you.
I'm Dragon, and today I am playing Blanca, I'm absolutely fascinated by this character. She is a hex type fated, and she has a familiar, which is a little pet rat. Rat's name is Lola.
Lola is adorable. Doesn't she? She has like a little ear on her back, doesn't she? She's a little lab rat.
Yeah.
Diego, what about you?
Hello, I'm Eden. My character is Diego, and you'll excuse me if my pronunciation's off here in some way. He's a Dreolith. Is that correct?
I think it's Dryofe.
Dryolethe. I was a bit unsure there. But he, in general, he has the ability to control water and can tap into the feeling of a location to sort of get information about things that have taken place there. And at his core, he's a bit of a rebel. On the right side of the law, so to speak. He fights for the things that are right.
May, what about you?
Good evening, everyone. I am Nikolai. I'm usually the DM for Penance. And today I'm playing May, who is a seer. She can see the vision of current situation and summon lots of little beetles and stuff to that according to her spelling.
And for this fight, she'll mostly be talking like this, because we can't have Belvy, so we're gonna the next best thing, we'll steal in Belvy's voice.
But is May also like a smoker? How many packs a day is May at?
It's gotta be easily 40, dear.
Okay. And Riley, what about you?
Hi, I'm Ian, sometimes known as Coakley, and tonight I'll be playing Riley, who's described as the heart of the team. Riley is a saucier, I believe is the pronunciation, who sold his soul to a Reynard, a trickster spirit. Riley is outgoing, gregarious, very friendly, and is basically the glue that holds the rest of the coven together.
Awesome. As I was saying, I think you all were based in London, and from what I hear from May's accent, at least maybe one or two of you were expats in London, but your coven all came together. You were requested by the Keeper of London. That's kind of like the head witch of London, so to say, to head to the small town of West Hutton in the English countryside, because people have been coming down with a strange illness. Normally this would be outside of the Keeper's purview, but this time he's decided that he wants to nip this issue in the bud. And he wants to know what's going on, because he doesn't want it spreading to London, and in general he's curious. And since you all are a young coven, you may not be young yourselves, but you're a young coven. It kind of means that you're sent to do the work that maybe more powerful witches or ones who have more influence in the society don't want to do. Before you go, the Keeper tells you basically that the illness that's been kind of plaguing West Hutton is a kind of strange wasting illness. Young people, teenagers, they've been in the prime of their life, have been wasting away, and two teens have died already, actually. It's of great concern, and it's making its way in the tabloids, actually. It hasn't really reached national news yet. You haven't seen anything on the BBC about it. But it's strange, and the Keeper thinks that there's something to this, and he wants it checked out before anything comes of it. To that extent, his assistant has helped you by renting an Airbnb in the town. The only Airbnb in the town. And you all can head there and arrive. It's booked up for a couple weeks, and if you need more time, the people who are renting it are happy to oblige. You make your way to West Hutton. I guess you all drive there, or maybe take the train, and you arrive at your Airbnb in kind of like this sleepy English town. There's kind of a high street with like the very like basic shops, but not much else. You know, it's like a high street. There's a baker, there's a corner shop, there's like a Sainsbury's or maybe Tesco's, depending. And that's about it. And some bored-looking teenagers kind of like hanging out on the side of the road. And the Airbnb is just off the high street. And you make your way there, and you press in the code in the little key box, and you get in. And you're welcomed by a note from the renter, Marcy, and her wife, basically welcoming you to their home and telling you, the various rules of the Airbnb. Please keep it clean. It's our family home while we're off wintering in the Dutch Antilles, and we'll be back in the summer. But for the rest, you're basically left to your own devices. What do you all do when you get into this Airbnb? What's the type of what type of hotel people are you? That's my main question, I think. Are you the find the best bed, check the fridge?
Blanca is definitely going to be checking all of the rooms and having a look and being nosy.
You go into their drawers?
She'll just set Lola down so Lola can go hunt and explore by herself as well.
Just let your familiar do. You're just follow your bliss, Lola.
Yep.
What about the rest of you?
I think Diego travels light and isn't too fussed about where he sleeps. I think he would probably find the nearest window to get a look out into the street and just to try and get a vibe of the location and is it a busy street they're on? Are we in suburbia? Whereabouts are we at right now?
You push back some of the curtains and look out towards the front of the house. You're definitely in suburbia at this point, even though you are off the high street. It's not very busy or bustling. You hear a little soft tap behind you as you see Lola just looking into your room, sniffing, and then continuing on her way as you look back out on the high street. But yeah, you don't see much. You see an elderly couple kind of walking by. This town is definitely dead, and it's the type of place where people are oh yeah, I live just outside of London, and it takes them 2 hours by train to get there because house prices are insane and that's all they can afford. So it's definitely not a really town that's thriving, because it seems like anybody who is here, they're going somewhere else, basically.
Hey, I think he would probably stay at that window, and I think he's a bit of a brooding type, so he'd probably stand there, not glowering out the window, but looking moodily and considering what's about to happen and waiting for everybody to be sort of ready with their rooms.
Does he have an internal monologue? Is it a thing where you see the overcast sky, and then there's just kind of a voice playing in your head? It's the sky, metaphor, darkness, brood.
A little bit of that. I think it's more consideration about this is a slow town, and he's thinking about how we're gonna have to talk to people to try and find information, and that might be difficult, and wondering if there's going to be anything that sort of stands out immediately, and just wondering where the first lead might be.
May, what about you?
I think May is looking quite disgustedly at the no smoking sign on the table, and is debating if it's worth the time just getting rid of the sign or actually going outside. Is standing in the sort of doorway in the place as literally as just far outside as she has to, then lights up and is just standing smoking, looking quite angry at the inside of the house.
So May lights up a cigarette and starts smoking. Decides to follow the Airbnb's rules for now. Please keep our home happy and healthy, no smoking inside. And Riley, what about you?
Riley has brought a rucksack that he is not unpacking, plans on just living out of the crushed clothes that are in there. First things first, what time have we arrived at?
Y'all have arrived around 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, so that means we've got a couple of hours before we need to organise something for dinner. Because, if we're all around, then it's nice to have everyone together for dinner, so We'll maybe, I'll maybe take May out for a walk. We'll go and see if we can see anywhere good that we can order food from, or anything like that. Gives her a chance to stretch her legs and have a proper smoke, rather than standing outside and looking at us like she's gonna murder us all.
You saw a chip shop like coming into town. You could just, go there, and there's probably a local pub somewhere. But yeah, that's what they get. That does bring a good question, because you said when we're all together. Does your how often does your coven meet? Yes, I'm putting you on the spot.
Probably about, like, to get everyone together once a month. Yeah, but then, you know, there's like sort of individual kind of like people will meet up as they go, and if there's anything that needs done, especially if we're currently the messengers of the much more important people elsewhere, I'm sure they'll call 2 or 3 of us at a time to go and do something. So yeah, we see each other about, but it's normally once a month we'll all get together and properly share some time.
And you said you're bringing May along. Is that because you both are closer to one another than the other people in the coven, or is it like, I don't want to get smoking in here and I want to get our deposit back?
No, again, I can just see that she's not looking particularly happy at being forced to be outside, so I'll give her something to do with that, with her outside energy.
Okay, so you go about just making the place kind of more homey, and taking May out for a walk, and finding a place to eat if you guys want to go eat outside, or maybe getting some nice takeaway from the chip shop. Well, to be determined. You shall see what the local chip shop is like here. But you all have also been told that the rest of the young people who've been wasting away, there's 5 of them in total so far. 2 have died, and 3 are reported, according to the tabloids, to be staying in a local hospital. So if you wanted to, that would be lead, or you can go and talk to people around town. That is up to you.
I think if people are heading out, if there's a sense of movement in the flat before, or the house that we're sharing, Diego's going to pop his head out of his room and inquire to say, like, it sounds like you're getting ready to go out. You got a plan?
Oh, just go for a walk, stretch our legs, see what we can see, acquaint ourselves with the town while we're here.
Sounds like as good a plan as any. I'll join you on that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Blanca, what about you? Are you just like having a good snoop? You're like, I'm gonna just let them do their thing.
Pretty much. I'm going to finish checking out the Airbnb, and then probably going to look up some more of the newspaper reports about the 3 teenagers that are ill, and check if the hospital has set visiting hours.
Okay, so you basically, you can actually just go on your phone. The tabloid has a website as well, so you can just look up the article. They don't say the teen's name, though. Of course, there's like this amazing obligatory blurry photo through a window of what looks like a parent holding their head, oh, I'm so worried. And the name of the local hospital that you can head to. And a quick Google basically tells you that visiting hours are during the day between 10 and 7, and then only then close relatives and family under special circumstances are allowed in the hospital after that.
That's pretty good. That's quite flexible.
Yeah, it's a small it's a small hospital, so they're reasonable. They want to give people a chance to get together. As you're looking that up, the 3 of you, Diego, May, and Riley, you all head out into Rome, and you said you're in search of food or in search of delicious things. Are you guys going to go to the chip shop, or are you going to try to find a local pub?
I'll see what the local pub is like. I imagine if it's like any local pubs that I know, we might not necessarily be as welcome, given that we're out of town and showing up, depending on just how local we're talking. But it might be worth kind of swinging by, seeing how it looks from the outside.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with that. I mean, if anywhere's going to have rumour and conversation going on, I think the pub's the place.
Yep, yeah.
take a stroll around town, and after about I think 10 minutes of walking around and just taking in the local sights, you see a sign which will lead to the local school and things like that. You find kind of the pub, which is actually just in between, like it's right next to an auto repair store. Like it has a street in between, but it's on the other corner, and some houses. And it's called the Spaniel, and you see like a very lovingly, and you think like hand carved, which is like special, hand carved, very happy looking spaniel hanging outside this kind of like dingy dark windows, and no one's really going in or out.
I never got why people like such little dogs.
Well, they're cute, don't you think?
I mean, the snakes are cute. Lizards are cute. Little tiny beetles with little wings, they're cute. Not this, not that.
Point to the spaniel.
Well, to each their own. That's fair enough. I quite like spaniels myself.
Do you all head inside?
Yeah.
Yeah, we might as well.
All right, you head into the very small corner pub, and almost immediately when you walk in, you're already confronted by the bar. There's a very small seating area to your left or right. There's a woman behind the bar who's just there, like reading a newspaper, having a drink quietly with herself, just a cup of tea. And you see one man kind of in the corner, just having a sandwich and drinking a pint. Riley, you also notice a small, happy little spaniel who basically runs up to you, wagging its tail.
Then I'll definitely bend down and give the dog a scratch behind the ear.
You bend down and you scratch the dog behind his ear, and it like happily barks. And the woman behind the bar kind of eyes you guys as you come in, and she walks to the end of the bar and she says, "Can I help you three?" And gives you a strange look, Riley. And what you, May and Diego, what you notice is that Riley is bent down, petting something that you cannot see.
Oh.
Given that I know that I have a tendency to see spirits, I might have to pretend that I'm tying my shoelace at that point.
So then you're like, okay, so the excitement of, oh, dog, goes into, oh, this is a bit weird. My shoe's untied. The dog like kind of sits down, cocks its head to the side, and like looks at you a bit like, oh, a bit disappointed.
Seeing the quizzical look in the barmaid's eyes, Diego tries to pull attention. Oh, we're just here. Well, we're on holiday, I suppose. We're just getting to know the local area. Just curious to see what's going on around here. Well, we're looking for a couple of drinks, actually. I don't know. What does everybody else want?
Red wine.
And you, Riley?
I think I'll take a Jack Daniels and Coke. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, 2 Jack Daniels and Coke and a red wine then. And Diego takes a perch at the bar.
She basically goes behind the bar and she kind of refills, and she says, "A holiday in West Hudson."
Well, I was gonna say we're just passing through. We're on our way to Manchester.
Ah, all right. And she pours her drinks and she says, there's been more kind of other people here recently. They were working for a newspaper.
Oh,
where are they?
And she says, you wouldn't be working for a newspaper, are you?
Diego flashes a smile and goes, "No, not me."
Of course not. I can't even read.
The dog.
They're sipping her wine, just ignoring everything.
Riley, you say you can't even read?
It's fine. It's a joke. Don't worry. I can see the concern in the barmaid's eyes at this strange man who's walked in, petted an invisible dog, and then said he can't read. No, I'm kidding. Joke.
At this point, the dog runs behind the bar and then runs back to you, Riley, and makes a kind of disgruntled sound at you.
Oh, I'll keep an eye on the dog. See if he decides if he's trying to show me something, or see if I can figure out what he's getting at.
He's definitely trying to grab your attention, and he keeps running behind the bar.
Oh, what's with the name of this? The
one behind the bar, she says, that's I named it after my dear sweetheart Percy. He passed away a few years ago, and she points to a picture of herself, basically behind the bar, holding this Springer Spaniel, and they're both like, it's like like one of those Christmas photos where like they're like clearly like posed in a very like fancy way, and she kind of frowns and she says, "God rest his soul."
I mean, I'm not one to judge, but surely Percy's would be a better name for the bar. It would be more glamorous, no?
She looks around and she says, I guess this. She's like, "You're in West Hutton, honey. This is about. Well, we're not very glamorous here."
He just sort of shrugs and goes back to drinking her wine.
I'll give May like a little elbow just to kind of get her attention. And then I am going to cast Boo, which allows me to create a sound or a series of sounds in a location that we can perceive. So I'm going to make it sound like there's some kind of disturbance outside the window. Possibly like a group of teenagers kicking off, having a fight. Maybe a broken bottle or something along those lines to really add to the ambiance of the sound.
Okay, so you're trying to get the barmaid out of the...
trying to see if she'll be distracted enough to head outside so I can at least nip round and see what the dog's trying to suggest. Have a look at.
Awesome. Let's do magic. Alright, so in order to do magic, what level is this spell?
1.
It's level 1. Okay, so you get to choose. So you are a witch, and witches can cast magic. There's no way that this is going to fail, but you have to pay a price, because everything comes with a price. So you can either decide to add points to your eternity track, so in this case 1 point, or things get worse, and that means that I get to pick a consequence for your magic. And for those of you listening, basically what your eternity track is it's a track from 0 to 10, and it marks how much ambient energy you have around yourself. So the more magic you cast, the more you pull from the ether of the world in order to make things happen, and the more power it builds up around you. And if it gets to 10, something catastrophic can happen. And the only really way to empty your eternity track is to make another deal with your demon. So, not necessarily something you want to do, but you may not want to have a consequence either. What is your choice here?
Yeah, in this case I will take a point to my eternity track.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure that she stays outside for at least a couple of minutes, possibly having a look around the corner, into the other areas to see where all these teenagers have went, as I kind of like whisper to May, like, play along, see if you can get her to head outside.
Oh, yeah, there was some kids outside in hoodies, throwing stones and causing problems.
She curses underneath her breath and mutters something along the lines of, like, no wonder so many of these kids are getting sick. And she says, if you'd excuse me, she says with a slight smile, and she heads outside. The moment she opens the door, she says, if I know who this is, and then the door closes behind her.
As soon as I see that she's looking out the door, I'll kind of stand up and start edging around the corner, so I can get myself behind the bar as soon as she's out of sight.
There's still that guy who's having a pint in the corner booth. Do you try to do this a little bit stealthily?
Yes.
Or you just... Yeah?
No, in fact, you know what? No, I'm just going to pretend like I've dropped some change.
Okay.
Oh, my pockets! I say as I huddle pound coins behind the bar and dive behind there to get them.
Okay, Diego.
You pass me the bottle while you're around there.
I would be stealing, so maybe.
Just knock me up, it's close enough.
The man like kind of looks up from his pint. Riley, you basically bend down. You're like, that'd be stealing, and like that's when the man kind of like looks up, like what? But you're collecting your coins, quote unquote. And the dog kind of yips happily and runs towards the back, where behind the bar, where you see a door, and starts scratching at the door. And his little tail's wagging.
So, why are you around there? You've not really, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing Percy.
Oh.
Oh.
Glad I can't see him. Don't like little dogs.
Yeah, in that case, I guess I'm gonna keep low so as the guy who's sitting eating his lunch doesn't quite notice, and try and crouch walk over to the door and see if I can get it open.
Okay, alright, I'm gonna ask for a check for this. I'm assuming you're doing this slightly stealthily, so I mean, I would argue that this is a body maneuver roll for flexibility and speed and stealthiness.
Sounds about right.
Let me see. The stakes are risky. Something bad could happen if this doesn't work, but you don't really have any opposition. The opposition is a door and a ghost dog and a man having a pint. So you only need one success.
That's good, because I've only got 2 dice to roll.
There you go. It's 2d6s, and every 4 to 6 is a success.
And I've rolled a 5 and a 3, so that is 1 success.
Oh, that's all you need. As long as May doesn't continue to televise your actions. You crawl on over, and then very quietly push the door open. You don't even need to go to the handle. You see that it's on a crack, basically. There's a crack open already. And you follow this ghost dog into the back room. And there, basically, you see the dog run in the back and then sit down and happily bark towards a back kitchen counter covered with various things.
Before I get too far in, I'll kind of lean back out and sort of say, right, I need you guys to cover for me if she comes back in. Tell her I got lost looking for the toilets. And then...
It's fine, I'll go smoke. I'll just see how she's doing. Tell her if I saw them running around the building or something.
Yeah, you deal with the barmaid. I'll go and... Well, has the guy at the table moved at all? Has he noticed anything that's happening?
He's looked up, and he kind of he hasn't seen the door really open, but he's at this point kind of starting to look around, where did that guy go? Okay. Where did he get off to?
So again, seeing that somebody's got a wary look in their eyes, Diego's I'll go and keep this guy under control. You go outside and deal with the barmaid, and Riley, you find out whatever's in that room.
All right.
So Maida stands up, picks up her wine, and walks out the door.
Okay. When you get outside, basically, you see the woman coming back. Her face is red. She has this kind of pale, beige-colored top on, and a couple of gold necklaces. And the kind of this faded blonde pepper hair, and her face is just red in anger. And she's kind of huffing because she can't find these kids, and she's kind of stalking back towards the front door as you come out.
Did you catch them?
She says no, and she's I think they're trying to nick my sign again.
What do you mean again?
She's that thing isn't cheap, and it's the second time they've taken it. And she's my dear Percy, I've had to have that commissioned, especially for my pub. And I can't figure out who it is. She's though I think I know. They live down there, and she points, and she's but I can't just leave now.
Well, I mean, why do they want your sign? I mean, it's very pretty and all, but I don't really understand.
He's well, they're just idiots, aren't they? She's
they're children, so yeah.
Yeah, and at this point, I think, you saying, well, they're children, yeah, it just starts her in on this tirade about these kids who have been, they're the teenagers, they're, one of them's 14, came into the pub, wanting a drink, she knows their parent, she said they, can go away, and ever since then, they've kind of been harassing her, and...
Children are so problematic. If only their parents had given them the proper amount of crayons as a child. She
seems a bit confused, but since you're a sympathetic ear, she continues on her tirade, and she's like, "Yeah, the crayons, of course. That's what it is." And it's like, I knew her mother, and let me just tell you. And she starts in on another rant. You've got her talking.
So, one other quick thing. Did you take over from somebody here? I mean, you said you only lost Percy a couple of years ago. I mean, this place looks older than that.
Well, she says, "Oh, well, yeah. My husband ran the pub before me, and when he passed away, I got Percy, and I decided to continue on with the pub. I was a nurse before that."
Oh, so was I. Yeah, I know all about the nursing. Yeah.
May, were you a nurse?
No, but I've got empathy and compassion, so I'm just trying to bullshit it.
Okay. What are you getting at here? Do you want something specific from her?
No, I'm just trying to keep the conversation going and just bouncing off and just changing every so often before she runs out of a tirade, just starts a new one and
Alright.
continuing the conversation.
In that case, I'm going to switch back to Diego inside. Diego, what are you doing to try to distract this man?
Okay, I think after a little brief decision-making session there, Diego's popped up from his perch at the bar, walks over to the guy with his drink in his hand and says, "Oh, good evening. Sorry to interrupt. Are you local?"
He looks around, he looks down at his pint, he looks back at you, and he says, "What gave it away?"
Oh, well, sorry, I appreciate that was probably a stupid question. I'm not local myself. Me and my friends here, we were just passing through town. I'm just curious about the history of this place. Do you know much about the town that we're in?
You look at him as, now that you're having a conversation, you see that, he has some bags under his eyes, and his eyes are kind of bloodshot. He looks really tired. And he says, nothing much has really ever happened in West Hutton. He says, it used to, we used to have a factory a while back, but that closed up. It was before my time, and now it's, most of the houses here are being bought by city folks, and he looks you up and down.
Oh, well, you don't need to worry about that. We're just passing through. I understand that small towns like this can very easily be overwhelmed by people coming in and kind of taking the locals' places, as it were. And he awkwardly at this point says, do you mind if I join you at your table for a moment? And without waiting for an answer, sort of sits down next to him.
I'm going to ask you for an understand test. You sit down with this guy, and as you sit down, he kind of he lets out this really long sigh, and he kind of rubs his face. And the challenge again, it's only one. He might try to kick you out of his table, but he doesn't really pose a threat to you. You're kind of this muscled, spry guy, right? And this is a middle-aged man, 3 p.m. at a pub with a pint.
Okie doke. How many d6 for this?
Let's look at your character sheet. So you want to look at... You have a spirit of 2, so it's a spirit and understand, and you have an understand of 1. So actually you're quite good at this. You have a 3d6.
Okie doke. Right, I got a 3, a 6, and a 1.
Okay, well, you'd say what success? That's alright. As you sit down, you think that this man has definitely been crying. Not here at the pub over his pint, but he looks really tired, and if you swing this the right way, he could. It does look like he could use a friend.
How old is this guy? Just in what's the general vibe? Is he middle-aged, younger?
Yeah, I would say late 30s, early 40s.
Okay. Diego sort of smiles as warmly as he can and says, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to impose upon you or anything, but I'm just very curious about some of the local ongoings around here. I read some papers recently saying that there were some kids that had kind of, I don't know, fallen ill. Do you know anything about that?
He basically he looks up at you when you mention the kids, and you kind of see a little bit of hope come out of his eyes, and he says, you heard about that?
Yeah, it was in the papers. I mean, nothing specific, but it seemed a bit unusual.
And he says, one of my boys actually, he's in the hospital at the moment, and he's not doing very well.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. I can understand why you're in here having a drink. I don't want to pry. Are you happy to talk about this? I really, it's just curiosity on my part.
He shrugs. He says, "It's all right if you've heard about it. I guess you've heard about it, right?" And he says, "Plus, it's well, the missus said that I should talk about it, but I don't really know what to say. He's just gotten sick. It's been a couple of weeks now, and he's in the hospital, and the doctors aren't really sure what's wrong, but the past few days he hasn't been eating anything either." And he just kind of rubs his hand over his face.
Sounds serious, that's for sure. I mean, there's no other symptoms or anything. I assume if the doctors are bamboozled by this, then like you didn't notice anything else that was happening with him in the lead up to this. I mean, teenagers being teenagers, it could just be that he's, I don't want to say depressed, but you never know.
He shakes his head and he says, "No. I mean, before this, he was a happy young kid. I mean, he'd been going out with his friends. Even he says they've active, doing the things that kids do, doing well at school. He says, I don't really, playing football with his friends. I don't really know what would have brought this on. He was always such an active, happy boy." And he just frowns and he looks back at his pint.
Oh, I'm sorry to keep on about this. We can talk about something else if you like. And trying to just get into distraction mode and just looking around the room now to see if Riley's come back from the room. Right. He kind of tries to lead into like a general conversation about football or something that's just a bit more kind of like standard like pub fare.
Yeah. I mean, Diego, are you from Spain? Are we going to?
No, I think he's first generation. His parents had moved over from Spain, and he's acclimatized British person, let's say.
Okay. All right. Well, he strikes up a football conversation, and I'm going to say insert football conversation here, as I have no knowledge whatsoever.
Likewise, I'm kind of glad you did that, because I certainly don't want to be trying to wield my very limited football knowledge.
Unite the internet in anger against our lack of football knowledge. So yes, insert conversation here. Riley, you're in the back. People seem well and truly distracted. You wait a few beats. The dog at this point is like jumping up and down, like yapping at you, like, "It's happening!" You don't speak dog, but you feel like that's what it would be.
Yeah, now that I'm somewhere quieter, I can bend down and give Percy a proper scratch behind the ear and see if I can say, "So, what is it you're trying to show me? Come on."
He looks up at the countertop and stands on his hind legs and starts scratching. And you go up and you kind of you look around, and through things you see like a bunch of old kind of stacks of newspaper and some empty bottles that haven't been taken to the recycling yet. And covered in dust, you see basically like a very old tin of dog treats.
I mean, I'm assuming that Percy can't eat the treats, but I guess I'm gonna have to try and carefully open the tin in such a way as to not show that it's been obviously disturbed.
I mean, it has a thick layer of dust on it. The tin is also customized with Percy's face and the barmaid's face as well.
Yeah, I can't even ask a spirit to help me out. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to try my damnedest to get a treat out without disturbing too much of the dust.
So you treat this like Mission Impossible. You're you carefully lift it up, twist off the top, pull out a treat, at which point Percy sits like a very good boy. And patiently waits for you to pass it to him.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make him wait any longer than he clearly has.
Years, Riley, years.
Yeah, he can get his treat.
Okay. You pass him the treat, and he jumps up and down and starts barking and nudging it with his nose and trying to pick it up. and then trying to pick it up, and then looking very perplexed and looking at you like, what did you do to this treat?
It's fine, keep going. You'll get it. While the poor spirit is distracted, I'm going to have a look around and see if there's anything else that kind of stands out while I'm no longer being as distracted by the dog. He's got something to keep him company now, so...
You're just going to have a good snoop?
Yeah.
Alright, I think that is a mind percept check. You want to send some percept to the world, look around, investigate. The stakes are risky, and the opposition, I'll actually say, is significant because, you're really going to have to do some digging if you want to find something interesting here. So it's a challenge of 2.
I can only roll 2, so that's good. And I get a 6 and a 5, so that's 2 successes. Hey.
Alright. You look around, and then once you start finding something interesting, you kind of you start digging through, and actually you find one of the tabloids that you'd been pointed to by the Keeper of London, and you notice that the page has been kind of under a stack of some other things, like some bills and some order forms that the barmaid's been working with, and you notice that the page is dog-eared, and you see kind of scrawled on the article about the missing teens. You say, call Sarah, and it it says bring around food ? And it has a number jotted down on the side of the margins of the article.
Yeah, I'll take a quick photo of it with my phone, just so as I have a copy of it that I can take with me. So it saves me from having to sneak this old newspaper out of someone else's house.
Yeah, it's a couple weeks old at this point, so.
Yeah, no, I'll take a photo and then make my way back behind the bar.
Alright. So I'm gonna, you guys round up your business there, and at May, about the same time, the barmaid comes in ranting at you, and you're like, oh, I hope it's enough time, when you see basically Riley sitting back in his seat, and Diego kind of having a very engaged conversation about a few football teams with a man at the bar. And I'm gonna actually scene change back to Blanca. You've made yourself at home. You've gotten comfy in the Airbnb. You've found out where the hot chocolate is, and you've been doing kind of some research on your phone about the local hospital. Lola has surveyed the area and has taken up residence next to you on a little pillow, and kind of nuzzled down really cuddly because she's a hairless rat too, so she needs to get nice and warm. Yeah, she does. So she nuzzles in next to you. What are you doing while you wait for the rest of them to get back?
I think she really wants to get to the hospital and see if we can speak to the kids that are in the hospital.
Are you going to wait for everyone, or are you going to go?
Did Blanca notice which direction the others went in?
How busy were you looking into to mate a Marcy and her wife's life? How deep were you in snooping mode, Blanca?
Well, that is the question. Probably quite. Yes. Super nosy. Always wanted to know things about people.
Yeah. Okay, well then, in that case, you didn't see what direction they went in, but you did find out that Marcy and her wife had the most beautiful Instagram wedding ever. They both wore these, beautiful bohemian dresses, and, you found their you found their wedding album. And, they also, you found out they both work in tech, and they live a quite nice life because they do kind of summers in England, so they can be near their family, and then they go away to the Dutch Antilles during the winter. They're very cute.
I might have fallen in love with their aesthetic.
You're like, can I do this? Where are these flower wreaths? They must be stored somewhere in the house.
Okay, so Blanca is going to scoop Lola up and put her on her shoulder under her hair so that she can be warm, and sets out. Goes outside. Is probably actually going to text one of the others that she's going to head up to the hospital to see if she can manage to get anything new out of anybody. But I suspect if she goes past any of the teenagers that were outside, she would probably stop and talk to them as well.
Okay. So the ones who are kind of hanging out on the high street.
Yeah.
Alright, so you send a text to everybody, and Lola like kind of like cuddles into her like normal comfy cozy place. And you like head past some kind of disillusioned youth, and not to say that these are more disillusioned than anywhere else in England, but they're teenagers and you're an adult, so they just look at you like, ugh, adult.
Blanca just kind of grins at them. Looks like you've got as much to do at the moment as I have.
I think one of the young men probably like stands up and smiles, and he says, "Well, why don't you come and sit down with us then?"
And Blanca smiles at the rest of the group, just kind of gauging how this might go.
Like a girl in the group, she just says, don't be gross." And two of the other, like there's two guys with like three guys and a girl, and the guy's just like kind of like.
So Blanca saunters over, sits on a wall. Doesn't seem like there's much to do around here, is there?
And the girl says, at this point the girl speaks up. She kind of like glares at the guy who was being a bit of a creep, and she says, "Nope. Unless you want to go around unless you want to help us out."
Well, that would depend what you need a hand with.
She kind of motions over to the corner store, and she's like, we've been trying to do you want to go in there and buy us a bottle of Bacardi? Give us something to do,
I'm having flashbacks to my teen years right now.
I need to so badly.
Bacardi, alcohol market people.
Oh, that was the first thing I ever got drunk on, and I can never drink Bacardi again because of that. Because it was a rough night.
I had almost this exact situation in reverse, and they're like, "What do you want?" We're like, "Vodka. What type of vodka?" And I was like, "Vodka." Sorry, Blanca. What are you doing?
Kind of weighing up. Do I buy them alcohol? I mean, they might, if I can get alcohol into them, then they might open up. This is completely unethical.
I mean, you could. There's 4 of them, and you could get them a small bottle.
I think what she's going to do is, first off, I'm going to reach in and take out my purse and be like, not with that much money on me, I'm not.
Like the girl, she nudges one of the guys sitting next to her. You think probably her boyfriend, and she's like, "Go ahead." And he rolls his eyes and he pulls out a wallet, and then he kind of nudges the guy next to him, and they form a pseudo huddle, and some pounds are being pulled out, and then there's there's a crowdsourced amount of money that's shoved into your hand. "Oh, and a Curly Whirly," the girl says. I mean, since you're going to be there anyway.
Only the best chocolate to go with your Bacardi.
Oh, it could always be worse.
It could. Blanca will go over to the shop.
Blanca! No.
She will go over to the shop and pick out probably a couple of snacks for them to help soak up the alcohol.
Okay.
I don't mind giving them a little bit, but they're young enough they shouldn't be drinking that much. An interesting, very much a neutral attitude to the law, but still going to look after them as much within that as possible.
You pick up some bags of crisps, you pick up a couple Curly Whirlies, and I guess a small bottle of Bacardi, right? Yeah. Small. Okay. The guy behind the store just looks at you buying this, just sighs. It's this old guy. He has in kind of one of those knitted jumpers. He just looks tired. For a moment, he's he has that look of should I question this? He looks you up and down. You're clearly an adult. He takes your money, gives you change, puts it all in a plastic bag for you.
Oh bless. Smile at him and be like, I don't think it's going to do any more harm than being completely bored.
He shakes his head, and he says, "You're the adult."
So she flashes him a massive smile and walks out and heads back over to the kids.
You see his cheeks like flushing a little bit of red as you walk back out, and the kids are like, "Oh!" Like, they have these looks of like, "She did it!" And one of them like legend. They grab the bag happily from you. Like, one of them takes out the Bacardi, and the girl goes, "Not here!" And she says, "You're all right. What are you doing here? I haven't seen you around town before."
Oh no, we only got in this afternoon. Gonna be here for a few days on the way, kind of passing through.
Passing through West Hutton, says one of the boys as he basically peels down the curly whirly and takes a huge bite.
Well, if you're that unconvinced, I could just take that bottle back.
No. I'm just saying. I think, like, there seems better places to stop. I wouldn't stop here.
Does seem to be lacking some entertainment.
You're telling me.
Although the place was in the news recently, wasn't it?
And then one of the boys frowns. He's like, yeah. There's a couple kids from schools who've gotten sick, and they all kind of they all look a little bit sheepish, basically. And the girl pipes up, and she says, "Yeah, and 2 kids passed away, huh?" And the boys kind of nod, and she says, "Yeah, their parents have been they've been quite upset. It's and all the parents are acting a little bit." And she kind of makes a symbol like they've been acting a bit strict and out of character.
I mean, it must be, not knowing what's going on must be so stressful.
They shrug, and one of the boys says, "I think," and then the girl shoots a look at him, and she says, "No, he doesn't think anything." And she says, "I think it is probably super stressful, and they gotta, I don't know. We should bring some flowers by, huh, boys?" And they nod.
Because this isn't suspicious at all.
No, they're innocent teenagers. What are you talking about, Plonka?
Totally innocent.
Yeah.
Standing on the street corner.
I don't have anything to do. This is a small town, okay?
I recognise the type of town.
Drinking Bacardi, they're classier than we ever were.
Not for Paisley. So...
You leave me and my bottles of NB 2020 alone.
I'm just trying to think. I imagine that Blanca would probably be able to get them to open up a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, you're gonna just keep prodding at this until they open up to you a little bit?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I like that. Let's go with I would say this is probably a charm, so a spirit charm check. Because you've bought them a bottle of booze, you're getting to know them. The stakes are, I would say, actually low. So the stakes are going to be 0. You stand to lose nothing if this doesn't work. What are the teenagers going to do? But I'm going to say the opposition is significant, because these are cagey teenagers who don't want to tell you what they don't want to tell you, and everyone knows what we've all been there.
Yeah.
Total, the challenge is 1.
So I have Spirit 3 and Charm 2, so does that mean...
You are going to roll a dice pool of 5, and you only need 1 success. I think you're going to be fine. Unless the dice gods are angry.
2 successes.
There you go, okay. It takes you a while, and at one point the kids want to emigrate to a local to a park, basically, like a small playground which is empty, which you kind of start thinking this is teen logic, because it's the side of the road or just an open playground. But sure, this is their chosen drinking spot of choice, and they because it's more hidden because it's on the field. People don't see you automatically if you're drinking. And they're passing around the bottle with each other and talking, and they basically the information you get from them actually is that all the kids who fell sick and who died were at a party at an abandoned cottage at the edge of town, and they were there a few weeks ago, and then you get some grumbles for the group because this group wasn't exactly invited to the party. It was the richer kids in town who were invited to the party, and it's a whole thing. All those kids who are their parents work in the city and stuff. They went to this place and they didn't invite everybody, and you get a good dose of teenage drama with this information.
Interesting. I'm actually going to check my phone. I'll pull my phone out and check and see if I've heard anything back from the others.
I guess you guys have a group app or something like that.
We have a Coven group chat, I'm sure.
Diego, yeah, you guys all get the message. About halfway through everything that was happening over at the pub, you guys got the message from Blanca, and once everything's rounded up, you're kind of settled in a place where you can actually reply to her.
Before I leave the guy at the table talking about football, can I query him for his name?
Yeah, he says his name is John.
Can I get a surname out of him?
Oh, a surname. Are you buying him another pint?
Yeah, I'd like to think that Diego's been carousing and is trying to ingratiate as much as possible. Wherever this guy's given preference towards a team or something, he's kind of conceded a little bit and tried to lift this guy's spirits a bit. So he's trying to get on his side, as it were.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've officially been invited to the next match, basically down at the local pub if you guys are still there. And his name is John Harris.
Okie doke. Having gotten the text then, and maybe seeing the other members of the crew off on the other side of the bar, and I'm realising that he might be a little bit behind the times, and it is possibly wasting time with this guy at this point. Diego will wrap it up and say, thank you for giving me your time, and obviously, all the best for your son. I really hope that works out, and, that match, we're definitely on for that.
Yeah, he he's been, he was taken away from his sorrows for a little bit, and he says, "You're a good man, Diego," and he just kind of nods you off as you walk back to your friends.
So very strong. The problem with Arsenal is they always try and walk it in vibes. Anyway, so May's going to be asking the barmaid if they do food to take away.
Yeah, she can. There's some pies she can heat up for you guys that you can take out, and then she also suggests the chip shop as well if you guys want something different. But she has a couple different pies. She has a nice steak and Guinness and a chicken curry pie that she can she can wrap up for you guys. It takes her 10 minutes or so. You want them warm, or do you just want them?
Definitely warm.
Okay, yeah, no, she's gonna heat them up then. It takes her 10 minutes, but she wraps them up for you guys. She now has a good connection with May, and she sits and they complain a little bit more about the youth.
Diego, sidling up to Riley, will start explaining, that man over there, I think I might have found some sort of lead. His son's one of the people that's fallen prey to whatever's going on around here.
At this point, May sort of has a moment of clarity and just looks into you and says, "What is actually going on around here?"
Well, the illness, of course. You know why we're here, right?
Yeah. I read the file. Yeah.
Diego eyes the glass of wine. How far into the glass of wine are you?
I think this is mostly done, or possibly third glass.
I was about to say, I'm is it actually her first glass still? It is not.
Oh no.
That's a lot of wine for mid-afternoon.
Is this standard behaviour from your character in terms of would Diego necessarily recognise this? Because I'm trying to think that maybe it's a trait that he would recognise as I can rely on you, but I never quite know what you're thinking.
My character basically spends the whole time just sort of grumbling about things, and every time anyone comes in, she relates them by fellow grumbling with them. That's her character, drinking wine and grumbling to people and seeing the future. Think basically Mama Murphy from Fallout 4.
Okay. So
Slightly more grumpy.
Diego will write that off then and sort of smile to himself internally and just be like, oh, same old, I know her routine. But then says, well, you all got the text right, and we should probably head down to the hospital. There's every chance that this guy's kid is down there right now. We might even be able to ask in the ward. I've got a name, Harris.
Yeah,
Did you check the kid's got his father's name?
Well, you've got to assume.
But I mean, it's modern times, man. You don't assume anything anymore.
True.
I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out.
Do any of you answer Blanca?
Oh, yes. We'll definitely...
I'll just look at our phone, put it away, half an hour later everyone goes, did anyone answer her?
No, that's kind of where I was leading with, like, we should probably head off and join Blanca and let her know what's going on.
We'll tell Blanca that we've got a pie for her. I'll send the photograph of the phone number I managed to find. Don't ask why I was cutting about in the back room of the pub. Yeah, we'll kind of meet her on the way to the hospital.
Alright, so you all meet up on the way, like probably towards the end of the football field where Blanca basically has been hanging out with her newest friends. And you all head off towards the hospital to maybe enjoy your pies on the way there. But arrived there, it's quite quiet, and it's actually quite nice that there is a hospital in this small town. You think probably serves as a hospital for some of the surrounding areas as well. You get to the main entrance of this kind of old, probably purposely built 80s building. You go through the main entrance, and you see that there's a security desk there, and a little bit beyond there's a nurse station as well.
Does it seem a general hospital, or does it seem like it's got a specialist unit or anything? Or?
No, it's general hospital. Like, so the nurse's station, I should say, is like nurse's station, kind of a reception. You can check in at if you need to, and get directions to the rest of the area.
Blanca is going to look at the others and be like, so all 5 of the kids that got sick were all at a house party at some abandoned cottage.
Really?
If we can get a look at them, we might be able to tell if it was something at that cottage that magic or ether or something that might be behind this. Because they're usually pretty good at working out things that are mundane medicine.
It definitely sounds like we need to find out where this cottage is. And if they were at that party, then hopefully one of these kids has got enough about them right now to be able to talk to us. But it's getting past this nurse's station that might be the difficult part.
I assume we all know the nature of each other's fates.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, so if you guys have been a cousin for a while and you've gone on a couple of these, like, missions that no one else wants to do, so to say, and you've been doing magic, I mean, depending on how secretive each of you are, you probably know generally what each of you are able to do. You may not know, like, the specifics of the deal each of you have made with a demon.
I think Riley should probably be one of the people to go and try and see the kids.
Yes. Now, the question is going to be I think the issue is going to be how we're going to get past them. Short of really bullshitting our way through here.
Do we know where we're actually going?
No, we'd need to ask for a room number, I think. Did you say you got a name for one of them?
Well, I didn't think to ask the kid's name, but I know that one of the kid's fathers named John Harris. So, I mean, we could try and say that we're here to visit somebody under the name of Harris. That could be a start.
I mean, depending on how we word it, in theory, all we have to say is, John Harris sent us, we know it's his son, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're, I don't know, a fucking singing telegram group. Who can sing?
My singing days are behind me, but I can hold a harmonica.
That'll
you can
do.
work with that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we just need to say that we're, we don't need to be a singing telegram group. Effectively, we just need to say, oh, John Harris sent us here to see his son. It's a small town. They will assume that we know who we're talking about, and we'll just kind of get shunted through, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Unless anyone else has any other ideas.
I was going to suggest one of you pretending to be a family friend and you're in to see John Harris's boy.
Well, I suppose I wouldn't be lying if I said that, after a fashion. I got along with John pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might be easier
You're like an
to...
uncle or something. You're more likely to get in than just a friend.
Yeah, it's... And if you say it confidently enough, people will usually just accept it.
Okay. Well, let's give it a swing. I guess I'll take the lead.
Alright, Diego, you stroll on up there. Confident. The woman behind the desk, she says, "Oh, can I help you?"
Oh, yes, I'm actually here to see my nephew. His surname is Harris. He's one of the local teams that's been brought in recently with that weird condition.
Alright, Diego. I'd like a check from you. Let's roll some dice. I believe you are very confident. I believe in what you are saying. I support you as a DM. Let us see if the dice support you. I think that this is probably a charm check, unless you want to do something else. Just flashing a smile, acting confident, that's normally a spirit charm check, and I'm going to say that the challenge is 2. It's risky, and the opposition is significant. These women aren't, women and men aren't just meant to allow anybody in, and it's risky because something bad could happen if it doesn't work out. So the challenge is 2.
Okay, well, ostensibly I have no charm, as much as, I don't know, I try. Let me try and roll 2 dice for that. Let's see. Got 1 and a 3.
Okay, so you had no successes, Diego.
Yeah.
Alright, so at this point you have 2 options. Either things can get worse, or you can spend points from your concept pools, if you have enough. Let's see. Yeah, you do have 2 ether. Concept pools are extra resources that your character has to spend in order to push themselves to make a failure a success. The downside is that every time things get worse, you get to mark XP. So normally in a full game, that means that you learn from your mistakes and you can make your character better at things. But if you don't want to mark XP and you don't want things to get worse, you can spend points from your concept pools up to the amount of successes you need if you have the points in order to get automatic successes on your check. So I see on your character sheet you have 2 points in ether, so that's the linked pool that you would need if you want to spend them. Or things get worse. Your choice.
Pretty pricey at this stage of the game.
Is there anything else we can do to help with it?
You guys can also spend points from your concept pools to give your allies an automatic success. But where Diego only has to spend 1 for 1, you have to spend 2 for 1.
And I can do it if you want.
If you're happy to, because I was thinking that if things escalate, then I might need the opportunity to re-roll something, and then this doesn't... Yep.
I can remember it. Just walk over, take Diego by the arm and go,
Honey, you're having problems. He's not very good today. I'm gonna... but just looking for Harris, yeah.
But May, I actually see that you only have 1 point in your ether pool. And that's the linked pool that you would...
okay. Never mind, sorry.
I have 4 points, so we're having to spend 2 for 1 success.
Yeah, so that means that you could give him the 2 successes he needs if you want to spend your entire pool.
Can we divide it, and I spend 1 point and he spends 2?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. I'm happy to do that.
Then in that case, I guess I'm coming up to the other side and taking his other arm.
And is this where you guys start your, like your penny band song for the kid, or?
Yes, I'll kick me in the back of the knee to get her to give us a... and we'll begin singing, I guess.
Diego starts explaining while the singing's going on. I brought these people to raise my nephew's spirits, and he starts really playing up like emotionality of this, and like he's upset about the situation. I just want to try and show him a good time before. Well, I don't want to think of the worst.
At this point, the nurse says, take the lift to the left and go to the 2nd floor. He's in room like 103, and you're not sure if she's utterly convinced by you or she just doesn't want this ruckus in her reception, but you quickly get hurried through.
I shall sneak after them. look like I know where I'm going. Totally fit in.
Well, they've caused enough ruckus that you're like, you just kind of slip past as well. Like, as they start singing and you hear, like, take the lift to the left, you kind of just start walking already. And you all make it to the lift. You take the lift up and you find the ward that they're staying in. At this point, I would say it's around 5 in the afternoon or so. You spent a couple hours walking around. You had to take a bus here. It wasn't walking distance. It's winter, so the sky is not dark yet. It's not night out, but the sky is starting to fall asleep. The ward is very quiet, and you hear just kind of the soft beep of monitors and the whirring of electrical equipment as you walk into this very quiet room where you see 4 people laying in bed, and they're separated by these curtains, which are drawn around each of them. But you see the faint outlines of each of them, each of the people who are laying there, basically breathing quietly.
Right, then I guess we're checking the charts at the end of the beds to see which one is Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Are 2 of the other patients in the room also teenagers?
You guys just like pull back the curtains and look in each of the beds. You see that there are 3 teenagers and one other person who's been placed in the room as well. Well, they seem to be sleeping. All these people in the room seem to be sleeping. So you check the chart of this person quickly, and you see that they actually are they're in a medically induced coma. It doesn't seem related to the other kids here.
Interesting.
Diego, did you say you were checking for Harris? Who was checking him?
I mean, all of us.
Oh, Riley, all of you. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
you all, towards the back window to the left, you find a young man, or at least what appears to be a young man. He has like a kind of short cropped haircut. He's hooked up to the IV, but he seems to be breathing on his own. But his every breath is kind of raspy and heavy. Mm-hmm. You see that his cheeks are sunken in, and his skin is kind of taken on this powdery tone to it, almost this powdery pallor. And he's in a hospital gown, and he just doesn't really look full of life and much of anything, to be honest.
Can we check the notes to see if he's been given anything?
You see that he's hooked up to a feeding tube, and you also see a list of medications. But do you think your character would know about different types of medications, or?
You know what, let's just keep the nurse bluff from earlier going. Yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah, you look through, and basically there's some basic things that he's been put on now since he's been in the hospital for so long. All of it seems pretty standard. Nothing really out of the ordinary, because like you read from his chart, you can't really tell what's wrong with him. Though you do see that some blood work has been sent up to London.
In that case, I am going to have to cast another spell. I believe I'm going to use Check, which allows me to determine the status of a creature's vitals and identify any ailments.
Okay.
So again, I'll take a point on the Eternity track.
Okay.
Because I can't imagine things getting worse would be particularly great if I'm dealing with a kid in a coma. So, let's...
You don't want to take that chance?
Yeah, I think I'll be alright.
Alright.
We get a charity single done about you.
You can tell that this boy is very close to death, actually. You think that he only maybe has a couple more days. You don't see anything physically wrong. You kind of turn on this sight, which allows you to part the gauze into the other world and kind of look at the lifelines surrounding this. And there doesn't seem to be actually anything wrong with his body, but you see that his spirit is incredibly weak. And you see he's being drained he doesn't have, you kind of look around, and for a moment you blink and you can see your other coven members. They all kind of have this vivacity and this life to them. They all being pulled out of him and almost disappearing into the ether. He's like a sieve, almost.
Okay.
May.
Yes.
You're investigating around the area, and you see, like Riley casting a spell, and Blanca looking at the chart of an adult in the room. And as you are, looking around as well for yourself, you get kind of this bright feeling in the back of your head, and it starts spreading down your scalp and digging behind your eyes. You realize you're about to have a vision very, very soon. And normally this is an incredibly painful experience, but you have just like a few moments before you feel like you're fully taken into this vision experience.
I move against the wall, sit cross-legged on the floor, and start shaking.
Alright. You start shaking. Basically, your body just like uncontrollably convulses for a moment. And as it does, you feel yourself falling forward. And all of a sudden, you're in a dark room, and you hear a very slow creaking. Seems like something running over a floorboard, back and forth, back and forth. In the light shining through a small window, you see a skeletal figure rocking back and forth in a chair in this kind of desolate. It's black. Up for a moment, and you see kind of ash raining down from the...
So is it a skeletal figure as in like a skeleton, or a skeleton as in a really thin, emaciated person?
You can't tell. Do you step closer in your vision?
Sure.
Okay. You start, you decide to step forward and take a closer look into what you were seeing. As you step closer, you see that this figure, it looks almost as if all the fat's been sucked out of it, and it's just wearing kind of this fleshy, burnt suit.
Okay.
As you blink back and your actual vision of where you are in the present starts to come back to you, you hear it breathing, and it's kind of this like raspy breath, like that. Every time it breathes, it seems to almost laugh a little bit. You come back into your body where you are in this hospital room, and for a moment the breath still haunts you in this room itself, almost mimicking the breath that you hear coming out of these patients in the room, and then the vision totally fades away.
So I sort of come to, I feel my nose has been pouring with blood, and I subconsciously, even without thinking, take out my cigarettes and start smoking.
Get to the hospital?
Yeah. I'm currently literally dealing with mental trauma. It's just how my mind will deal with it. It's just I start doing it subconsciously without realizing where I am.
Okay.
I was going to say, assuming that I am out of my trance, I will walk over and pick May up and take her over to a window.
The windows don't open because,
because people are in comas.
Security.
It's the thought that counts.
I literally dead weight in your arms with a faraway stare, nose still pouring with blood. The only thing I'm doing that's conscious in the world is smoking.
That's fine. Again, we've worked together enough that I've seen this happen. You give me a minute before she tells us what she saw.
We might want to take her outside, because otherwise we're going to be kicked out and not be able to get back in.
Okay, then I will take her under the other arm. We'll both just sort of try and escort me out quickly.
Alright, as you guys are escorting her out, there's a nurse walking down the hallway, and he says, excuse me, you're not meant to smoke in here. And then he kind of narrows his eyes, he's like, is she alright?
She gets spells like this occasionally, hence the smoking. We'll get her outside, don't worry.
Is she a patient here? Or what are you? He looks the three of you up and he's like, where are you coming from?
So Blanca's going to step forward to speak to them.
At this point, I guess I'm going to start singing again as we continue to just huckle May down the corridor.
Okay, so you keep walking. You try to get past this guy. And Blanca, you're stepping forward to kind of just distract him and talk with him?
Yes.
Alright. He says, whoa. And he basically, he takes a few steps back. He says, what exactly is going on here? You know you're not meant to be smoking in the hospital. Miss, are you alright? And he just seems very confused. And he's clearly, upset at this point and irritated.
I imagine this must be quite shocking to see. Sir, I know she is having quite a heavy nosebleed at the moment, but that is something that happens to her quite frequently when she gets stressed. Unfortunately, she then uses cigarettes as a part of a ritual to help herself calm down. Obviously we can't let her do that inside a hospital building. Trying to do is to get her outside, because if we try and take that cigarette off her just now, she would potentially become violent, and nobody needs to deal with that. So we're trying to do this as peacefully and as carefully as possible for the sake of her own mental well-being.
I think that's a charm check, Blanca. And the stakes are risky, and your opposition is significant, so you need 2 successes, please. Oh, there you go. Alright. He basically, he just listens to what you're saying, and he's like, alright, get her out of here now. Points basically down the hallway, and he motions to the lift, and he's like, and quick about it, because the fire alarms are gonna go off. You really can't be smoking in here.
Yes, sir. Gives him a big happy smile, and then races after them to help get her outside.
Alright.
Because those guys kind of rushed off out of the room, I feel like Diego was left behind a little bit, and I would like to do something possibly a little bit outlandish. You'll have to tell me if this is okay or not.
Okay.
You said that the various kids had feeding tubes.
Yeah.
Could I potentially use Soothing Answer to pour a little bit of water or something down the tube and sip a little bit myself and try and undertake that ritual with them?
Oh, that's interesting. Sure. So you want to try to finesse their feeding tube so you can have some of the water as well that they're drinking? Or I guess some of the... Maybe you could cut a hole in their IV and drink some of the water that they're having?
I just want to get this ritual to work somehow, and if they're all kind of incapacitated, this is the only way I can think of that might work, because it's Diego's thinking fast, and just the situation escalated very quickly. Everybody rushed out of the room with May being in a bad state, so he's quickly thinking we need to get information. Where's this cottage? Okay. Is his main thrust of what can I get out of this?
Alright, so the ritual is a ritual 1, so you need to, by sharing a drink from a cup of liquid, I can take a portion of the target's feelings as my own. Would you like to mark your eternity chasm?
Let's mark eternity, I think.
You take out a pocket knife maybe, and you open up the IV bag slightly, and you just pour it into probably a paper cup or something that they have next to their bed, and you share a drink with them. Let's see, it says, after you finish the drink, you know best how to solve a problem the person is facing. You can't articulate the exact solution, but you can muster up some helpful advice, or help them fix the situation with the best course of action. As you're tasting this kind of sweetened liquid, it starts to turn bitter in your mouth, and it almost tastes as if you're drinking something that's burnt. This burning sensation kind of reaches down your throat and starts almost kind of spreads into your lungs and feels like fire for a moment. And as you feel that fire, there's also a scent of burning that comes to your nostrils. And the scent is faint, but you feel like you could follow it if you wanted to.
Okay, that sense of a direction then. He rushes out after everybody else, and perhaps brushes past the nurse on the way past, and rejoins the group.
Yeah, and as you do, you hear like a beeping happening because like the IV is like basically draining out at this point, and then nurses normally the machine has a little thing to notify when it needs to be replaced. So you hear the nurse kind of mutter something and like run off to the room with the kids in it, and you meet up with everybody outside.
I think I've got a sense of the lead. And he sniffs the air and looks around and says, I performed a ritual with one of those kids. And I've got there's something in the air. They're burning. Something. I don't know what it is, but I can certainly point us in the direction it's coming from.
It might be something dangerous. I'll share what I experienced when I was checking the kid and how they seem to be like a slow puncture of the soul, essentially. Just releasing kind of their life force into the ether.
Hello, people.
Soul suckers. We better steady ourselves. Seems like things might get interesting soon.
Can only assume that something marked them or tapped onto them at that cottage.
Sounds about right.
Well, if you think you've got a direction for it, maybe we should... Blanca grabs her phone and brings up maps. And is like, right, okay. So we are here. Wait a minute. Turns around so we're facing the correct direction, so the map makes sense to her.
Imagine you're all sort of standing in a semicircle around the sort of somewhat body of May, just draped against a wall, just still coming back from consciousness.
Yeah.
We cluster around you to help hide you from view.
How bad would it be if we stole one of the outpatient wheelchairs?
I mean, quite.
They have them just sitting about waiting for people to get in, so we'll just tailor in one of those.
We're not wheeling her back into the hospital.
I'll be fine. They're busy dealing with the boy with the leaky IV, I hope.
Okay, right, Diego. Which direction is it you think this is coming from?
Well, I think it's coming from over there, and he kind of sniffs the wind and points in the direction that he feels the strongest eminence coming from, I suppose.
Yeah, you think you can basically, you can follow the scent getting stronger to the west.
So, kind of start scrolling along the map and zooming in, trying to see if there's some roads, like small roads there or anything that might lead to a cottage.
Okay, so you're just, you're trying to kind of look for a small area. Let's see. Why don't you make me a reason check, a mind reason? That's your application of intelligence and wits. I feel like that's
Okay.
And a challenge of 1, mostly because your opposition is significant, but Google will do nothing to you if you fail at this, I promise. Maybe show you ads for countryside houses, but that's about it.
2 successes.
Okay. So you're scrolling. Google has definitely added that to the algorithm of perhaps you'd like to move to the countryside, but that is a story for another time, and a demon for another time. Start scrolling through, and you do see just quite out of the ways of town, and you see a home basically down a small country road. And when Diego looks at where you've kind of looked on the map, Diego, you definitely get the sense that you should be there, to the point where it almost looks like this small dot on Google Maps. It almost looks like it's burned into the screen of Blanca's phone.
Okay. Diego quickly is like, stop, there, that's the place. Okay, but let's figure out a route and let's get to it, because whatever's in there is definitely what's sucking the soul out of these guys. And we've got to do something about this.
Is this somewhere that it would be reasonably easy for us to get to?
It's around 5:30 at this point. Yeah, I mean, you could take the local bus. Does stop riding in the evening, so you may have an issue getting back. It's going to be a hike to get back to town if you stay there for any significant amount of time. But if you rush, you should be able to get a local bus near there and then walk up to the property. It's probably around, Google says it's around a 15-minute walk from the bus stop. Though it's hilly, so, depending on your walking time, you may be faster or slower.
At which point, I think we're both going to turn around and look at me and be like, are you up to walking?
May is slightly more conscious, just staring a hole straight through you. Her pupils are of different sizes. and blood is still trickling down her face and onto her clothes, and she's still just not saying anything but just smoking and occasionally repeating the word skeleton.
We take a wheelchair, or we might not be getting her down this country road.
I'm not sure we're getting her on a bus right now. I kind of dig around in my pockets and end up using my sleeve to wipe some of the blood off.
Alright, May, let's say it probably takes you about another half an hour to kind of come to. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, fine.
You can get yourself as much in shape as you're gonna be for the rest of the evening in any case. You guys can head and try to catch the bus if you want. And alright. You decide against stealing from the hospital, and you wait till May is a bit better. It's around 6, and by the time you guys get to the small country road which leads you to the cottage, it's about 6:30 or so, and you start hiking up this kind of hilly ascent to a cottage that you see at the top of a hill. It's surrounded by what must have been a very beautiful English countryside garden, but this garden hasn't been taken care of for years. It's completely overgrown, and when you get to the wooden fence that surrounds the property, it's almost impossible to even follow this cobblestone path towards the cottage itself. As you start making your way to the cottage, you kind of see the building through the overgrowth, though it's still a couple of minutes before you get there. You hear some rustling in the leaves and in the foliage in front of you and around you.
Is it just a stone path, or is it mud, or...?
Yeah, it's a cobblestone path that's completely grown over with weeds and plants and weeds and nature, basically.
Is there any obvious sign of something moving through this? Any sign everything's sort of been shunted out the way anywhere?
No, actually. Everything seems very intact, if that makes any sense. It doesn't seem like anything's moved through here in years.
What level of rustling are we talking about? Is it something of size that seems to be moving through undergrowth, or is it just the general rustling of leaves and stuff?
You hear a very soft scraping in the distance. Back and forth. Back and forth. Back and forth. Almost methodically.
Is there a sense of distance? Can we get a feeling for how far away this thing might be?
Why don't you make me a percept check? So that is mind percept, and the challenge is to...
I cannot possibly pass that because I can only roll one die.
Okay, well you can spend a concept point if you want. So if you roll... I don't know how many concept points you have. Only one, maybe. Let me see. One, yeah. So you could technically do it if you want, but it may have consequences if you don't make the check, because then you could only spend 1 point and it won't be a success.
I think Diego is just wary then, and notes the noise in the distance pointing off towards where it's coming from and says, "Does everybody else hear that?"
It could be a swing.
Can hear something. Wait a minute. And Blanca turns and guides Lola off of her shoulder onto her hand. Let me hear.
Okay. Lola gives you a look for a moment. Okay, so you want to send me to the creepy thing. But she's willing to go off in the distance. You want her to go and crawl around and see what it is, right?
Yeah, get a bit closer.
She does give you a look of do you not love me?
Lola, sweetheart, you will get all of the treats after this. And I don't want you to put yourself in danger. I just need to know what that sound is.
She looks determined at the mention of treats and crawls off in the distance. And after a few tense seconds, you start to hear something, and it sounds you're hearing clicks on. At first, you just hear scattering and the moving of leaves and a little bit of sniffing, soft sniffing, as one would say. And then eventually you hear the sound of something metal being scraped back and forth over stone. and a soft humming of a male voice, just kind of like.
Okay. I would like Lola to come back to me at this point.
Lola would also like that. She scurries back.
Once she gets back, she gets picked back up and cuddled because she'll have got a cold, because it's getting late now for a hairless rat. Bundle her up under my sweater, and... Okay, so, there was metal against stone, and there's a male voice humming.
Was he humming in tune? Like, can he actually call the tune?
Yes? It's not any tune I recognise, though. But yeah, it's like, you know when they used to sharpen, like, blades and stuff on a whetstone? It kind of sounded like that.
Was it like a wheel, or was it like a whetstone?
I don't know. I can only hear what she hears. I don't get to see what she sees. It sounded really sinister.
I mean, if you'd like to see, I could always send...
And he opens her hand and a small frog appears.
I think we might need to get closer. I'd quite like to know if it's like a person that we can see, or if only Riley can see them.
Before we go crawling up, I think I'm gonna once again cast a spell. This time I'm gonna go for help from my friends. So I ask nearby spirits to come to our aid and create a protective shield around us. Anyone who's close to me will essentially be protected for 1d6 worth of damage. So give me a second and I will roll.
Before you do that, I could also summon the creature and send that up to look at it. I can experience what they sense.
We could do both. Feel free.
I could send the creature up to actually work out what's going on. That could actually see what's going on.
Both sounds good.
Yeah. While May is sending up her frog, I'm gathering up any kind of local spirits and trying to just see how much alliance I can get. Apparently I can call in 2 local spirits to give us a hand.
Okay.
And summon 1d6 beetles, small frogs, lizards, or snakes. I'll probably take lizards actually, they're probably more reliable.
Riley, are you going to add to your Eternity Chasm, or are things going to get worse?
In fact, you know what? Let's allow things to get worse.
Okay. So then that is... And what about... Because this is kind of simultaneously happening. So, May, what about you? Are you adding to your Eternity Chasm, or are things getting worse?
Much like an agent of chaos, I will add to the chasm this time.
You're going to add to the chasm. Okay, cool. You summon some cute little geckos, and you just send them off to see what they can see?
How many I get? 5.
There's a cute name for a group of lizards. I forget what it is. 1 second. Good. Yeah, you summon your lounge of lizards. That's so cute. You summon your little lounge of 5 lizards, and they head off like this cool crew of geckos to do your bidding. In the meantime, Riley, you summon some spirits. And let's see, what level spell? It's a level 2 spell. Now I can choose, for those of you listening, level 2 spells, and things are going to get worse. So I can take 2 options from a list, and I'll just read them out for everybody. The character takes 1 damage, they draw unwanted attention, or there is a consequence. In this case, I'm gonna combine them, so I get to pick 2. So, Riley, this spell actually, there's not that many spirits in the area, and you get the sense that one of them really doesn't want to move. Well, at least not to protect you. You really have to draw the spirits from a far distance. So I'm going to say that you take 1 damage to your power pool, because you really have to call them from a long distance to you to come protect you. So your power goes down by 1. And the second one that I am going to say is that there's a consequence. And indeed, that consequence is that you are trying to call nearby spirits. And there is a nearby spirit who very much did not want to come to your aid, and it is aware of your presence now. You get the sense that there is something in the area that is keyed onto you, but they have not come to you as of yet. But the other spirits come, and they form a protective shield around you and your compatriots. And indeed, they'll take 2 damage from whatever damage comes to you guys from an outside source, not from yourself, before they fly away. Back to May. Your lounge arrives at the area, and what you see from your vision between them, because it kind of jumps between all these little lizards, is a little bit disjointed because, they spread out, they fan out, and they do their cool little lizardy things. One's on the floor, one has climbed up on a branch, one has stopped to take a quick drink from a rose before it continues. You're kind of getting all these flashes of images, but the image that they kind of focus on and starts flashing in front of you is you see a man, and he's sitting on a tree stump, and he's sitting and he's humming to himself, and he's sharpening an axe. And every time this kind of stone goes over the axe, your vision jumps to another lizard, and it kind of like the stone gets dragged over the axe again, and it jumps to another lizard.
Does he look young? Does he look old? Does he look...
He's a young man with dark brown skin and quite nice hair. Like, it seems like he really takes care of himself. And he's wearing a jumpsuit, like a green jumpsuit. Looks almost like he's like a gardener maybe of some sort, or a carer.
Does the axe he's holding look new? Does it look old?
It looks old. It's in fact, as one of your little lizards gets kind of closer to inspect the axe, you see that while he's running the stone over the axe, it doesn't seem to be sharpening it anyway, because his axe is old and rusty. And for a moment, the man, as the lizard comes up close, because it's not really a gecko is not really something you see in the English countryside. The man stops for a moment, and his head turns slowly to the lizard, and he looks at it, and then he goes back to humming, and he continues to sharpen his axe.
Is he wearing boots? Is he wearing shoes?
Yeah, he has his wellies on.
So I relay this to everyone else.
It almost sounds like he's some sort of echo.
Could be the one responsible for all of this.
It's possible.
Actually, Blanca, you've
Yes.
said a very interesting word, and since you've used actually the exact word for this type of spirits, there are spirits that you've read about, Blanca, in your training, maybe in a grimoire somewhere in London, that are called echoes, who just repeat the same action over and over and over again. And they can sometimes be helpful, but they don't like being disturbed from the task at hand. And they're really unable to do anything but the task at hand, and accept and answer maybe a few basic questions relating to their death, who they were at the time of, whatever happening to them happening.
See any form of injury or anything on the man?
The lizard does not.
I'm happy to go and talk to this echo,
Yeah.
but it doesn't quite fit with the vision that you had, does it?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with it.
Unless, of course, it's the same cause of death. And Blanca straightens up, makes sure that Lola is nice and secure, and then walks towards the sound.
Okay. So you're going to go up to this echo.
Yes.
I will come along behind and make sure that Blanca's protected.
Likewise, Diego will continue up towards the building, and with a mind to perhaps use Aisling, his fate gift, as he approaches, and get a sense of the building and what's happened here.
I'm going to go with Blanca first then, Diego, and then I'll go with you.
Cool.
Blanca, you walk up to this man. You see he's a young man, probably in his early 20s. From his build, he quite seems, he just seems youthful. As you approach behind him, he's kind of humming this kind of tune back and forth to himself as he's sharpening his axe. You walk around towards the front of him, and you see, now that you're up close, that this man doesn't seem to sit right in the reality of the world. He looks like a man, but he doesn't look completely there. And it's not that he's the typical ghosty translucent, but he just looks, there's this deep feeling in you when you see him that he does not belong. And as you walk around and you get towards the front of him, you see this basically slit on his throat appearing, and it starts to kind of pour out blood in front of you and run down his long jumpsuit as he continues to sharpen his.
The jumpsuit, does it look like something that has existed in our world?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure.
It's not like made out of flesh or something like that.
Yeah. Some strange fabric we've never seen before. Address him. Hello, forgive me if I am disturbing you.
Yeah, he blinks for a moment and he looks up. And he says, we don't get people out here this late. And then he kind of turns back to his axe and he keeps sharpening it.
I was told there was visitors a couple of weeks ago. Some youngsters came up here.
He says, he looks at me and he says, yes, the people from town have been by since we rebuilt. I guess they came to see my garden. Do you like my work?
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, he nods over to a tree in front of him. And he says, gonna cut that one down next. Just gotta get this thing sharp. And then he kind of furrows his brow and he looks down at the axe. And he continues to try to sharpen it.
I am slightly loath to disturb him by asking him about why his throat is slit. But on the other hand, it might be really useful.
Could be.
Can you see anything else about this kind of spirit? Can you see anything else about them that other fated might not?
That is a fair question. Can I?
Well, Riley, one thing you can do is, we don't explain your entire fate gift in quick start, but you have more of a knowledge about spirits than other people, so what you can do if you'd like, you can just make a check, just to see if you know any additional information about these type of creatures. I would say that's a mind reason check.
So that is 1 dice that I get to roll.
Your opposition is significant, but the stakes are low. Like, your own mind isn't going to hurt you, right?
Is it? I rolled a 4.
So what type of information would you like to know?
To see if we can figure out if there's any chance that, well, I assume that he personally does not know what has happened to the kids, but to see if there's any way that we can ascertain whether or not he would be responsible for making the kids sick, or if that would be the action of something else.
You know with echoes that they become more lucid the more you remind them of their death, because it brings them kind of into a state of remembering, basically, because they're in a state of trying to forget. But they also become more dangerous.
Okay.
So you're likely to get more information out of him if you try to convince him of his state, that he's not actually about to cut down the tree, etc., etc. But he could also get very hostile and very violent.
Then in that case I will kind of step in and take the lead from Blanca, since I have some ability with spirits. I'll just be like, well, you know, you aiming to cut down that tree that's out there, but looks like your axe isn't getting much sharper, is it?
He looks down, says, maybe I just started? He looks at the stone. That's so strange. I just got this from the shop a week ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's the issue.
It's not? And he picks up the axe. It looks like, he has it in his hand and he kind of like turns it a few times. And he says, what do you think? He's like, are you a gardener?
Not exactly. But, I might know a little something about why you're having issues sharpening the axe. And he sort of motions up to his own neck to kind of like, sort of invite him to touch his own neck and kind of feel that he's got a little scar there.
Okay, a little scar.
Aye.
Okay, I think I would like a charm check. You're trying to convince this guy, essentially, like in a gentle way, that he is dead. I'm gonna say that this is risky. Something bad could happen if this doesn't work in the way that you would like it to. And let's see, I have stats from you. Opposition 1. So the challenge is 2. So you need 2 successes.
Okay, and that's a spirit and charm.
Indeed.
Oh, 1 success. So, I think I can spend ether to add a success here.
You can.
Yes, I've already spent 2 ether, so I'm going to spend 1 more, so I'm down to 1.
Okay.
That's fine.
Fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
because the last thing we need is a crazy axe spirit swinging at us. So,
Well, I mean, everything's gone quite all right now. You maybe an expert exactly what you need in your life. But all right, he reaches up and his fingers run over this kind of gaping, bloody hole, and he says, "Oh, the accident," and he says, "That's not right," and he says, "That's not right at all."
What accident? Did something happen?
Oh, she didn't mean to. I'm sure she didn't mean to. She didn't mean to, right? And he looks up at the both of you.
We might be able to answer if we know who she is.
And he says, "What she seemed like such a nice lady. She wouldn't have done this to me. No, it's the lady of the house, of course. No, she was so sweet." And he kind of holds on to his neck and he says, "I can't. Can I breathe?" And he starts kind of like.
no, it's fine. You don't need to.
He looks at you confused.
I'm telling you, try it.
He starts looking around, trying to breathe, and then he kind of, and then he catches his breath. And his eyes kind of go placid for a moment, where there was panic. It kind of calmness sets in, and he looks down at his axe and he starts smiling and rubbing the stone over it.
If he is content, let's leave him as that.
Yeah.
Didn't May say something about someone in a rocking chair?
Yep.
I wonder, could that be the lady of the house?
Is there an upstairs to this small cottage, or are we basically seeing everything that we can see?
Yeah, you're a little bit of distance away from the cottage, but yeah, you do see that it's a 2-story cottage.
Yeah, then I guess we are going to go and speak to the lady of the house.
I think we're going to go back and get the other 2 first.
Oh yeah, that may be an idea. Everyone together.
I think we need all the help we can get.
You guys aren't going to split the party? Well, Diego's walking up to the house in the meantime, anyway.
Yeah, on that note, are we close enough, or is Diego close enough that he can get the sense of the building to implement Aisling to get a full sense of events that have taken place here?
Yeah, definitely. May, are you hanging back?
If there was a house nearby, I think I would have sent my lizards off to look at them when Riley and Blanca went to talk to the man.
Okay, so you sent your lounge with Diego to the house. Alright, so Diego, you get up to the house and you try to basically use Aisling to see what has transpired here. You look at the house and you see it's a 2-story cottage, which is probably built, well, how much does Diego know about architecture? 90s, 2000s, it's a pretty modern cottage. And you reach out and you can touch the house. Immediately, you pull your hand away because you see the house crumbling underneath you, and you hear kind of like the sounds of young kids in the distance, basically saying, "It caught," and then one of them saying, "We have to help. They're still inside." And as you take a few steps back, you see that it's like an entirely different cottage, a quite old one in fact. And you see that this thing with a thatched roof is actually going up in flames. Inside, you hear the sounds of voices, basically just waking up and yelling for one another. And you take some more steps back as this house is really catching now. Everything seems to be going up incredibly fast and front door flings open and an old man basically who's like in a really long nightshirt He runs outside and he's coughing and he's gasping. And everything seems to be happening incredibly fast. And he kind of crawls, he's crawling on the ground, and he's wheezing. And he looks up and he calls out for a woman. Says, Deirdre, and you see this woman is, she's in the window of the house on the second floor. She's pushing her hand against glass, but you see that, there's like a bright light behind her, and your instinct blinks off, but as you look up, you're still staring up into the window, you see the charred skeletal corpse of something staring at you through almost the exact same place upper window of this new cottage. And then it quickly turns around and starts heading deeper into the room inside.
Snapping out of it, then Diego is aghast at this horror that is presented and the potential peril that everybody's in, and looks around behind him to try and see where everybody is in terms of their distances.
May your lizard see Diego just standing there for a bit, and then looking around scared, I would say.
Alright. How long do I have the lizards for, by the way?
Till the end of the scene, unless you use them for magic, because you can also use your lizards to do different spells. And otherwise, they're just, hanging out, being lizards. They move as fast as lizards do, etc., etc.
So, okay. I'm just going to slowly make my way towards the building where all the lizards and Diego are.
Alright. Diego, you see Riley and Blanca coming out of a clearing, and May also eventually making her way up the path towards you.
Okay.
And you hear, behind you, a doorknob turning.
Diego, in a panic, kind of shouts to everybody, "Look out! There's something in this cottage!"
And the door slowly swings open, and in the door you see a charred corpse standing there. Through gritted teeth, the thing says, "Kids on my property."
Are we
Diego.
close enough to interact now?
Yeah, to interact and be interacted with, let's say.
Is it holding anything? Is it just standing in the
It's
doorway?
standing right there, and you see kind of painful burns all over this thing's body. It's kind of this charred, emaciated thing. And it's kind of hunched over, and the only thing that really you can make out is the whites of its eyes and teeth, which are also a little bit yellowed and cracked.
I think Diego will run away from the building towards whoever's closest to kind of regroup as best as possible.
Okay, so you're fleeing. I like that. And you're close.
Yeah.
I'd like a maneuver check from you.
Okay.
As you try to run away from this thing, and it makes a fast move. And you know what moves fast? Is the children. So this thing, through gritted teeth, says that children on my property. And you make to flee, and it lunges for you. So, I'm going to say the stakes are risky, and her opposition is 2, so you need 3 to dodge out of this thing's way.
So this is maneuver and body. Right, so 4 die. Let me get that rolled. 1, 5, 4, and 6.
Okay, there you go, Diego. You dodge out of the way basically as this thing grabs, and she's like, "You won't escape me this time." You've made it, you kind of just leap over to the rest of the group though, as she's tried to reach out and grab you.
Yeah, huffing and puffing a little bit, and rejoining the group. Quickly, we're going to have to do something about this. Anybody recognise that thing?
I've seen it before
Was she in your vision?
in the hospital.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Could she be a core? Another fated?
Oh, a corpse,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because, she's clearly been here quite a long time.
Who's the closest to her at this point? Diego, is it still you, or have you hidden behind someone?
I don't think he's hidden behind anybody. He's kind of tried to... If we're moving through a slightly overgrown path, I would think that there'd be trees and things nearby, so maybe he's taken a perch behind a tree and is within talking range of whoever's closest.
Well, I was going to say, since I'm the one who's bringing protection, guess I'll be stepping forward to make sure that the 2 spirits I've managed to corral will be in the best place to defend everyone
Alright, she's stalking towards you and trying to grab you. She tries to grab the closest thing as you guys have a conversation, and she just lets out this angry growl of frustration and pain, and she stalks towards you, Riley, and she reaches out and tries to grab you.
Ma'am, we're not children. We're not here to cause you problems.
I'm going to let you try that, Blanca, in a second. First, Riley, how do you want to deal with this? Do you want to just try to let your spirits soak it, or are you going to try to dodge out of the way still of her trying to grab you?
No, I think I'm just going to kind of let the spirits take this one, just to show that, we don't mean any harm to her at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'll allow the spirits to distract her, whatever 2 animal spirits I've managed to pull from the middle of the moors. Your badgers.
2 badgers, just come at me. Alright. They've just created this kind of machine that you can see over you and your party, and the woman reaches out to kind of grab you, but instead, as she does, she kind of gets stuck on this shimmery sheen that's over you. She pulls her hands back as you almost see the claws of the badger kind of going over her skin. She shakes them off in rage and frustration. And Blanca, you're just ma'am, we're not children. Is there anything else you're saying to her?
We're not here to disturb you or to do you harm.
Alright, why don't you make me a charm? And again, I'm going to say that this is risky, and yeah, her opposition is 2, so it's a challenge of 3.
Nope. Not a single success.
Oh no, okay. You don't have enough consequence either, okay.
Yep.
Alright. In that case, things are going to get worse.
Yep.
The stakes were risky, so your action fails, and I can pick one. You fumble, you take damage, you miss your chance, or there's a consequence. I'm gonna say, as you're talking with her, you're we're not children, ma'am. She's shaken off this gall of badger spirits that have been hounding her for a moment. She stops and she turns to you, and she looks at you for a moment, and she blinks her eyes as if she's hearing you. And she kind of gets this sweet smile on her face as she walks closer to you. And you say, we're not here to harm you. And she says, you're not here to harm me, in this almost sweet granny-like voice. Her hand reaches out, runs itself down your cheek, and just for a moment you're okay, I'm getting through to her. Let this happen for a moment. But as she does, and her hand runs over your cheek, you feel it basically pull away, and as those badgers kind of stuck to her, she seems almost sticky in a way. You feel her basically just pulling some of your vitality and some of the life out of you. She says, you may not be a child, but you're young enough. And she laughs. As she does, you take a point of damage to your health as she sucks some of the life.
Well, we definitely know what happened to the kids. Okay, I have health of 1. Does this mean I'm out?
Oh, okay. Alright, so at this point, Blanca, you have a couple of options, basically. At 0 health, you die, which I'm assuming you're not going to take. Or you can cross a permanent point on your eternity track, so that means your eternity track gets smaller, so for the long game, basically, it'll be easier to cause an eternity chasm.
Yeah.
And you need to make an additional deal with your demon. And I will get to you in a moment, assuming that you're choosing the latter option of not dying.
Yes, I will.
Alright, please cross a level off your Eternity Chasm, and I'm going to, I think everyone's taking an action except for May, so I'm going to let May take an action first.
Might as well try Skin Crawl. Your beasts burrow underneath the skin of a foe, dealing them damage. The beasts inflict damage equal to the opposition your target poses.
Okay. So you send your lizards out to dig underneath the skin of this woman?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, your lizards, they jump on the woman, and they start digging into this burnt flesh, and kind of making their way through the rents of her skin. and she starts screaming, and basically tries to rip them off of her, but as she does, she's like ripping off these chunks of her skin. Riley, you see this. As she's pulling off these kind of chunks of skin and burnt flesh, you see her also kind of pulling at her own spirit in a way, as if something's kind of underneath this suit of patched together flesh and pain.
Okay.
There's no initiative in which, because it's based on player's actions, she's going to attack the group again. You guys see that Blanca has kind of like fainted onto the ground. In general, we basically say that everyone gets a turn before there's a new round. So at this point, unless anyone immediately wants to do anything, then I'm just going to call on each of you to see what you're doing during this time. She's going to lunge at your group again, clearly, because you're attacking her with lizards that are crawling underneath her burnt flesh.
Now, if I can see that there is like some spiritual harm happening to her, I guess I could charge forward and try and grab onto her and use check again, which allows me to determine the status of a creature, any ailments that they have. If I can figure out if there is something that I can do to help this spirit and stop her from attacking us, I think that would be a good way to do it. It also means I can kind of hold her back for a second to allow the other guys a chance to figure out what they're going to do too.
Okay. Are you adding to your turn beat track, or are you letting things get worse?
No, I'm absolutely going to add to my eternity track for this one.
What is your eternity track at this point?
I believe I have 4 filled in.
Okay, so like Riley would definitely, if you're playing more sessions with this, Riley would definitely be summoning his demon probably next session to make some deals. But
Yes.
But okay, alright, you reach out and you grab onto this woman. First of all, like, she's dead, if that wasn't obvious. The second thing is that as you're trying to focus on her and trying to understand what's wrong with her exactly, you get 2 senses of things. The thing that's outside, pain and anger, and there's the thing that's inside, that's scared. And there aren't necessarily any physical ailments besides for the fact that she just got lizard bitten, burrowed. I don't know how to describe that in a succinct way, but you think these are more ailments of the soul. And you think everything on the outside probably comes from is linked to the thing that's on the inside. Don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but
Yeah, that makes some sense.
alright, so then there is May and Diego, and Blanca, I'm going to be very mean and make you wait till the end of the round.
That's fine. I'm currently looking at names of demons.
Oh, good. That's the first thing I was going to ask you, so it's good you're doing that. May and Riley, what are you two doing? You see this corpse's, this burnt body's focus is now on Diego, who has just, like, grabbed her, or, well, like, touched her, basically. Like, you see the head of this burnt thing just, like, look down, and, if nothing is done, it is going to grab onto Diego and suck his life force.
Do you mean Diego or do you mean Riley?
Oh, sorry, Riley.
I mean Riley.
I mean Riley.
That's fine. Just in case I missed something.
Diego and May haven't done anything yet.
You know what, let's just do a full body check. Just charge and try and jump through her, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so you're going to try to check this woman.
Yep.
Is your goal to get her, like, away from Riley, or is it also just to kind of, like, do her damage?
More just to kind of get her off balance.
Okay. Alright, and try to knock her down if you can?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, risky and dangerous, so you need 3 successes, and I would say it's probably an overcome, because you're trying to, overcome her with
So how do I roll for this? I have a 3 in body and I have 1 in overcome.
Yep, so you're going to roll 4 dice, and you need 3 successes.
And the success is...
4 to 6. So you only have 2 successes. So if you want to get a third one, you could spend a concept point. So you have Gauze 4, so you could spend 1 point in Gauze to give yourself an automatic success to be to just like barrel her down and kind of check her.
Sure. In that case, Diego, he's good with the gauze. So he's going to jump in and kind of add weight to the situation and try and bring this thing to ground.
Okay. You also kind of pile on and grab her. And I guess you're both just trying to pin her down then. I would say since May's already checked her, I'm going to take 1 off. It's only a challenge of 2. because May's already done that work of like getting her down. So really, like you're doing the work now of really pinning her, right? So that's a body overcome, and it's a challenge of 2.
Okay, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. You pin her down, and she starts like letting out this kind of like angered scream. But through these screams, you kind of hear this mournful howl coming out of through her throat as well. You two have got her pinned. Blanca,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about your demon as we quickly change out of this action since your 2 coven mates have pinned her. The name of your demon, Blanca.
My demon is Ainat. She is a demoness known for a wicked gaze and is rather unforgiving.
And normally these demons, like these devils, that's what the hexes are called, they appear in human form. So what does she look like? How does she appear? What's her meat suit look like?
Tall and willowy, and she doesn't immediately look threatening, right up until there's something that she's not happy about, at which point she is the scariest thing you can imagine, while still being in human form.
Alright, you kind of pass out for a moment as this creature touches you. And when you come to, you see your devil standing over you. And you're still in the garden, but you don't see anybody around. And as you kind of look to your left and look to your right, you see that there's all these kind of creatures amongst the garden plants. They're not like the cute snakes and lizards, but they all kind of seem to be these corrupted forms with 1 too many eyes and 2 too many tails. And all seem to be a little bit hungry and staring at you and curious. And she just looks down at you and she says, "What a disappointment."
Yes, I'm quite ashamed of myself.
And she offers you a hand and helps you up. And she says, "You're really too trusting, aren't you?"
Well, my charm is my greatest skill, and I guess I trusted in it too much this time, although I would dearly love a chance at revenge.
Revenge? That's why you want to go back.
And Blanca's quickly thinking to herself, I'm more likely to get away with it if I say revenge. Yes, revenge. After all, she did land me here, didn't she?
Yes, she did. And you're quite useless to me right now. You know, you haven't really learned what I need you to learn for, where you're going. So perhaps I could be convinced to send you back, but you know how this works, Blanca, don't you?
What is your price?
Ah, there we go. I do something for you, you do something for me. What I want. And she says, if you truly want revenge, then I say you take that revenge. Because inside that creature, that angry, vicious creature, is something that's very scared and very sad. And while you act really cool, I feel like I know you a little bit. And what I would like you to do, rather than saving this thing, if you truly want revenge, Blanca, I'd like you to kill it. That's what I'd like you to do for me. No saving, just killing.
I make no promises for what the rest of my group may do.
As long as you try your best, and I'll know if you don't try your best, Blanca.
But of course.
Alright, let's see how this goes. You haven't made me angry yet. And with that, she snaps her fingers, and you wake back up in your mortal body to see May, I think, like, on top of this creature, Diego, like, holding down its arms, and Riley about to do something. That's kind of how you come back to it.
Okay. I'm gonna sit up and, like, get to my feet as quickly as I can.
Good, she's not dead.
Not this time.
Well, Blanca, what are you gonna do?
Blanca is going to run to the Echo and ask to borrow his axe.
Okay. Alright, so you guys, like, Blanca comes up, May's like, oh good, she's not dead. And then Blanca just, like, veers off to the left and runs away, I would say. You don't say anything, do you? You just run off, right?
Yeah, I just go.
Okay, alright, what do the rest of you do? You still have this thing, like, thrashing and clawing.
I was going to say, if I was like holding her back and the other two have tackled on top of her, I think I'm at the bottom of the pile in that case.
Yeah, are you trying to get out from underneath?
Kind of. I'm essentially going to try and like roll myself to be out from under the pile and then try and like lay a hand on the corpse that we have here and try and impress that we really aren't here to hurt her, we just want to help.
Okay. What do you say to her?
Given that I have some kind of understanding of spirits, I guess I'm going to try and... You were saying that as she's like pulling chunks away, I can see that like her spirit is coming away with some of them. So I'm going to try and like lay my hand on any of the kind of spirit essence that I can, in a sort of like reassuring way to try and hold on to her and just explain that we know that kids hurt her previously, but it doesn't mean it's okay for her to make them sick. She can help us help the kids.
Alright, that is a charm check. The sticks are risky, and she's still dangerous, so you need 3 successes.
Okay, is that spirit and charm or?
It is spirit and charm.
4 dice.
You're pretty good at that.
And that is 2 successes.
Okay. Do you use the last point of your ether pool?
Yes. It's a risky move, but yeah, I'm gonna like really throw my all into this one and try and calm her down.
Alright. You try to reassure her, and you, it's going to sound wrong, but I mean it in a kind and friendly way. Like, you touch a part of her that hasn't been touched in a long time. You speak to the person behind this flesh monster, and you hear the gnashing and the howling and the anger. You hear kind of a very sorrowful cry, and you hear kind of a frail voice coming through the flesh, not exactly moving with this fleshy monster around her. She basically she says, "I'm scared. I'm so scared. I don't want to fade away."
Yeah, in that case, I basically give her a hug and explain that she doesn't have to. There's lots of spirits that hang around.
The children, they're going to hurt me again. Just like they hurt me before. She says, just like they hurt William.
Oh, they can't hurt you now.
Are you sure?
Very sure.
She starts crying, and as she does, the 3 of you notice that the tears sort of start to wipe away the ash on her body. As the ash kind of falls to these kind of black, muddy puddles on the ground, they kind of disappear in these pools of kind of bright, almost ghost-like ether. What's left is May and Diego. You guys are kind of sitting in like the translucent body of like this little old lady in a very fuddy-duddy nightgown, you know what I mean, and her hair in curlers. She sits up and she looks around a bit like,
They're blinking for a moment, just like, hey.
Quickly, CJ's, Blanca, you've made it to the man with the axe. You just grab the axe out of his hand.
Sorry, need to borrow this. I'll bring it back. Grab it and run.
You grab it and run. You hear him like, he starts after you. Can you make me a maneuver check to dodge out of his way? I would say that's risky and significance, so the challenge is 2. So you're going to roll me a body maneuver.
1 success.
Do you want to spend a point of gauze if you have it? I don't know how many you have.
I have 1 point of gauze.
Would you like to spend it? Sorry.
Yes, please.
Alright, you dodge out of his way. You run back, basically, to see this kind of like the 3 of your coven members sitting there with this kind of very now sweet-looking old lady in a nightie, looking around rather confused. She could be your granny. Well, maybe not exactly your granny, but she could be someone's granny. And you have an axe in your hand. The 3 of you guys see Blanca running back with an axe, and the gardener not far behind her.
Yeah, in that case, I'm kinda gonna turn around, still probably holding the old woman's hand and say, "Hey, no, it's okay. We got it fixed."
You got it fixed? does that take away the fact that she's already killed?
I mean, who hasn't killed?
Yeah.
Really? How many children has she killed? She murdered the gardener here.
Yeah, but look at that face.
There's at least 2 teenagers dead. The other 3 might not be far behind. Just because she doesn't want to do it anymore doesn't mean that it reverses what she's done.
Well, I'm sure we can work with her and try and figure something out.
I don't know, this thing's quite a malevolent spirit. And Diego holds her shoulders down so that there's like a clear headshot if there's an intent to swing the axe.
Blanca
She
narrows
might
her
have the
eyes.
thing to, help them kids,
Blanca narrows her eyes at Deirdre, I assume.
Yeah.
And what about you? Do you want to keep existing knowing that 3 innocent children die if you do?
She starts crying and she says, I'm killing children?
Your fear killed them. You just killed me. Now I've lost another part of my soul to be able to come back.
I didn't, and she starts crying. Because I was just so scared. I don't really know what's happening right now. Please can't you help me?
Blanca, Ixnay on the Ed Teenagers Day, like...
Yeah, she says, I don't want to hurt anybody, but you can help me, can't you?
Of course we can.
Alright, Blanca, what are you doing? I feel like this is ultimately down to you.
The only way to save the children that you've hurt, even if you didn't mean it, is to sever the connection between you and them. You cannot keep haunting this place.
Is that true? I don't want to hurt anybody. If that's true, then she says, I guess do what you must.
No, there are other ways we can do this.
Those children don't have time.
Diego is fully torn, just looking back and forth between the 2 of these 2, kind of giving both sides of the coin, and is just holding this thing down as best he can.
May is just sitting on the floor, lighting up a cigarette, just looking at both of them, just giving a kind of like, yeah.
Right.
Alright.
You have 24 hours.
Till what?
Get this fixed?
Oh, right. Okay.
And she gets up off the floor.
Either the kids' life force is given back to them, or it's time to say goodbye for good, Deirdre. And you might be
will you
reunited
please stop
with
scaring the
William.
old woman?
I mean, I would much rather she accepted it than I just straight out murder her.
I mean, it's still gonna be murder then, but yeah.
Diego tries to study the expression on the charred face of this thing. Is there a sense of it like sort of easing off and loosening up at this?
Yeah, she's not fighting anymore. She seems grateful. She's like, oh, thank you so much for not killing me. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Diego will kind of step up then and sort of take his weight off of her chest and let her get to her feet, and we'll try and give her this chance.
Mace is standing next to her now, just smoking kind of semi-aggressively, just like,
Yeah, sure.
I guess I better turn around and hand the axe back to the Echo.
Yeah, the thing like runs up, is like about to punch you. You just like pass the axe back to him. He kind of like has this placid look on his face and just walks back to where he was sitting before. Okay, so your party has 24 hours to deal with this before you off this woman, Blanca. But Blanca, you basically kind of went against your demon direct. You have not tried your best to kill this woman.
I have delayed it.
Okay. So, in the interest of the runtime, though, Riley, Blanca, you had some discussion, and if you reach out to some of the associate friends you know, you can disconnect the spirit, basically stop sucking the life force. Because basically what she was doing was sucking their life force to give herself kind of like a false sense of life.
Mm-hmm.
But to stop like that fear and pain and anger cycle probably will take a little bit more time than 24 hours, right? Like you can probably keep her placid and like get her to like let go of the kid, but like the deeper issue might take you like a couple weeks to solve, because there's probably more unfinished business than that just this issue.
So, will I have a chance to discuss with Blanca why she wants the spirit dead quite so badly?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So, once you guys get back to the Airbnb, you can have a discussion about that, or I don't know, do you stay at the cottage?
Well, we got the Airbnb. We might as well use it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, in that case, as great as it would be to be able to help this spirit, my coven mate's life is probably worth more to me personally, so I would much rather focus on getting the kids disconnected, and then...
I've got a feeling that if I tell you about this deal, and we end up saving the spirit, I'm going to be in even more trouble.
Well, that's why I'm saying that if you're willing to give me the 24 hours to get the kids disconnected, then...
Yeah, that's the most I can risk giving you.
Then I guess that's the most I can take.
So you sit down to do this, and May just sort of walks through. You hear the sound of the bathroom door slamming, a bath running, and then the sound of a cigarette being lit in the bathroom.
Alright. Diego, do you have any opinions on this, or do you just let them do their thing?
I think he would kind of mill around close by to the conversation, where it's clear that he's taking interest, but he's not involved directly. He's interested to see the way it plays out, but isn't necessarily he's not going to try and sway it one way or the other.
Alright. Shall I just do a cinematic roundup of what happens? Are you all good with that?
Yep.
Sure.
So I think, the first thing we see is Riley having a conversation with, the entire party probably having a conversation with this woman, and slowly, maybe going and showing her what she's done to the kids, and then her finally, crying and releasing them. You see the first kid's eyes kind of flutter open. The Harris boy's eyes flutter open as he wakes from his long slumber, and then I think we probably cut to the cottage in the dark of night. Definitely less than 24 hours later. Blanca, how do you end this spirit? Maybe I'll let you have the final word here, since you're the one getting your hands dirty in the name of your devil.
So I need to kill her, but I don't need to do it in a particularly unpleasant way.
No.
Essentially, do the equivalent of a put to sleep. Euthanize. Get her calm, peaceful, relaxed, into a near sleep state, and then administer a lethal injection. With a lot of morphine as well. Okay.
So you lay this kind of charred spirit corpse down in the bed of the cottage, this now aged and rotting bed. Hold her hand. As the camera zooms out, you kind of talking to her, and then reaching down. Your hand pauses for just a moment at what you are about to do. And she's telling you a story about how her and William met at a local dance at the church, and how it was such a good memory, and she'd love to go back and be as young as you are again. And you administer this lethal injection into her, and slowly drift off to sleep as you possibly wrestle with the weight of what you've done. And that was the session, guys.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it was good.
Thank you.
Nice and depressing at the end.
No.
Well, I mean, the vision of May standing there with a pillow just going, it's the easiest way.
I'm not going to lie, I was genuinely expecting it to be Riley standing there holding this wee old woman's hand saying, everything's going to be okay, as she gets her axe buried into the side of her head. But
she was so close.
Yeah,
but no.
Much more
passionate than that.
Okay, maybe it had to happen, but at least I could do it in a way that was least... She's already died traumatically once.
Yeah.
So. I mean, you could have gone for the really hardcore version and just set the house on fire again while she was in it.
Yeah, that would have been worse. Thank you. That was a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, totally. Great. Really enjoyed that.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed myself. I had a lot of fun too. It's always fun to see what people are going to do with the game, with the adventure, and everything like that. And, oh man, it's always interesting. Also, in the one check, everyone always goes for the eternity chasm. Like if you had another session, that would be painful. But it's
yes,
absolutely,
no doubt.
That's what we do it for.
you want to just do another sum up of what it is and where folk can find it, and we'll just chuck it at the end.
Witch Fated Souls is coming to Kickstarter on the 31st of October. You can find more information about it on our website, angryhamsterpublishing.com, or you can check us out on Twitter at angryhamsterrpg, and we also have a Facebook group, which is just Angry Hamster Publishing. Any place there, you'll be able to find a link to the Kickstarter, or just on Kickstarter itself, Witch Fated Souls 2nd Edition.
And we shall be including all these links down in the description for the episode.